Now, Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi says Putco buses will be back on the streets tomorrow. The bus company had hit the brakes due to non-payment of subsidies. This led to Putco running out of diesel. Tracking this story for us today, as it's been developing, is Heidi Giokos. Heidi, good afternoon. Well, at least there's a hope for commuters who today had to make alternative means to travel around and commute to work. Putco will be back on the streets tomorrow.
Yes, certainly. I think this is definitely welcome news because of the distress that many passengers were facing today, literally left stranded and unable to get to their various destinations because of the decision Putco took yesterday to suspend operations due to Gauteng Transport Department not paying the subsidy on time, really leaving Putco in a very difficult position. But I think let's get more clarity. We are joined by Putco's MD, Franco Pisapia. Thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it. Let's just start off with how difficult it was for you to make the decision yesterday to suspend your operations given the late payment by Gauteng Transport.
A decision to stop operating is a very difficult decision, especially when you're carrying 230,000 people per day. And it was the last resort, as we had no option due to the fact that we had no diesel to be able to fill our buses. And hence we could not operate. Even if we wanted to operate, we could not operate.
There's been criticism, though, that passengers were left stranded because you issued out the notice at the very last minute. Could have this been handled better?
It definitely could have been handled better, but unfortunately our hands were tied because we had discussed the issue with the department for over 2 weeks. If we had known, we could have given a notice far earlier, but we only found out yesterday afternoon that it was not possible and that we would only get paid on Monday.
Okay, let's move over to what the Gauteng Premier had to say today in this press briefing. He's indicated that the Auditor General has picked up irregularities with paying for services before they've been rendered. You were very quiet in the press briefing, you didn't say much, but this is obviously going to cause a bit of issues around how things are done with Putco moving forward and the subsidy you receive from the department. How are you going to manage this, and were you informed about this irregularity picked up by the Auditor General?
I think we're aware of the irregularities, but it's the province's obligation to ensure that it has enough funds for these contracts, irrespective of the public transport operating grant from National Department, and therefore they need to make provision for that, which has not been done, and that has led to this problem. The fact is that paying for services in advance is a practice they have used in the past. It can still be done. It could have been done if the right processes were followed. Going forward, this will be alleviated by the fact that you will have different requirements in terms of the contracts, and therefore this situation should not happen in future.
There was also concern about the fact that Putco wasn't necessarily in a position to have reserves, because many were saying, why doesn't Putco just tap into its reserves until the payment is made? But maybe just paint us a picture of how that is not actually practically possible.
It was not possible at all because all the reserves of Putco have been depleted due to the fuel price. As the Premier said, the rates of the subsidy did not keep in touch with the fuel price increases. Therefore, in fact, Putco has subsidized the department about 176 million rand in this last financial year, so we did not have any reserves. In fact, the Premier alluded to what our bank balance was, which we will leave it at that. It was not in a position to buy fuel to put fuel into the buses.
Are you in need of extra cash or subsidy from the department?
Yes, we are. All operators, not only Putco. This has been an underfunding problem since 2009 for all operators.
Okay, and then just lastly, MD, maybe just speak to us about tomorrow. Operations resume as per normal. Passengers who are slightly confused about what happens to today's bus ticket, what do they do?
They will all be notified. They've already been notified. Passengers were notified already from about 2 o'clock this afternoon that services will run tomorrow, and they will be notified in terms of what happens with their tickets, as is normal practice when we don't operate due to various issues. and they know that they'll get a discount.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it. That is, of course, Putco's MD, Franco Pisapia, speaking to us about the fact that operations will resume tomorrow, and obviously some of the challenges they face. I think the fuel increase is a massive one for anybody, actually, Bradan, not just Putco, and obviously they're going to have to start re-looking at how that subsidy works. But I think the good news is that all passengers have been notified and will continue to be notified that all Putco buses will be back on the road as of tomorrow morning.